Okay, so now we're moving on to option 2. This is for people who have the Maker machine only. So the reason for that is we're going to be using the knife blade, and the knife blade only works with the Cricut Maker. Unfortunately, it does not work with the Cricut Explorer. So this is only for Maker users at this point. If you're an Explorer user, please refer to the first method we just went over. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to create a puzzle, and this is going to take a few extra steps. But one of the reasons I like this is because it allows us to get perfectly clean edges on our picture and our chipboard without sacrificing the quality of our image, having the chipboard tear on us, or our image tear, or we can't have as thick of a puzzle as we might like. So what I do here, I'm going to use the square puzzle template in this example. I have the square puzzle right here. So I'm going to insert this. Your templates will come in looking different. This is just what I've been working with. I'm going to have them a little bit more organized for you guys. I'm going to get rid of this heart one. And let's get rid of the background piece here. We don't need it in this case. So I'm going to have that. I have that there. Now let me upload my image. So we're going to do the same thing we did with the heart puzzle a minute ago. We're going to pick an image and we're going to bring it in because we want that image to go over the top of our puzzle, right? This can be any image. It could be a family image, a photograph. It can be just a fun image off of the web, like I've created here my own image. These little gnomes. Everybody's into gnomes right now. Not my personal, not really into gnomes personally, but I figured since everyone loves them, then I'd make something that everybody loves right now. So these little guys, this pattern right here, you can get on my blog. So that'll come with the templates. So there's some patterns and some gnomes and the puzzle templates all included on the blog. This part is. But if you want to use a different image, then you bring your own image in at this point, okay? So now we need to make sure that these are the same size, because right now they're not exactly the same dimensions and we need everything to line up perfectly. So I'm going to decide what size I want this puzzle to be. Right now it's kind of zoomed out far, so it's actually at 13 inches and that's a little too big. So I'm going to shrink that down. I think like maybe let's see, 9-inch puzzle probably would be good. So I like even numbers. Let's do 9 inches by 7 inches. All right, 9 by 7 inches, and I just adjusted that by typing it here into the edit bar where it says size at the top. I unlocked it so that I could change the proportions. You can unlock by unlocking this little icon here, or the unlock icon that's on the bottom left-hand side of any image that is selected. Once I have typed in my dimensions and I'm happy with the size, relock that icon. So if you scale, it won't change those dimensions. I can take it right back down to 9, and it'll be exactly 9 by 7 again. All right, so now we know what we want our puzzle size to be. Now we need to change this picture size to match that. So I'm again going to unlock this image. I'm unlocking that little blue unlock button right there on the screen, and I'm going to type in 9 by 7. There we go. I'm going to relock it, and now we have a 9 by 7 image and a 9 by 7 puzzle here, and I'm going to bring these two together and we're going to select both and we're going to align them on top of each other, exactly centered. They're going to stack center on top of each other. So I'm going to click the align button and then click on center. And now it's brought those two together. They're exactly the same size and they're perfectly centered and stacked on top of one another. Okay, so here is the part where there is the extra step, and this took me about maybe 25 extra minutes to do in Design Space, but once I've set it up for my particular puzzle, if I ever want to remake this puzzle, you just save the project and you don't ever have to do this again. This is a method that I just personally tried, and it worked well because I ended up with a very clean looking puzzle in the end, and I eliminated the frustration of my chipboard ruining my image when it was cutting all those passes. So what I do here, the first thing you want to do is select both of those pieces again, and I want you to duplicate it, okay? We just want to have an extra copy of our original. So I just duplicate, I group, and then I hide. So I just hide it in the layers panel there using that little eyeball key. I just hide it. And then I'm going to take the front image here and I'm going to send it to the back. So I'm selecting my gnome image. I'm sending it to the back. Now I'm selecting the puzzle on top, which is currently grouped together. In the layers panel, I'm going to click ungroup. Okay, so now each of these puzzle pieces can be clicked on individually because I ungrouped it. Okay, let me zoom in here for you. It's kind of tiny. There we go. Now we're going to use our slice tool and we are going to slice this image so that each piece has already been sliced out of the image in the shape of each puzzle piece. And I know this seems like a ridiculous extra step to do, but if you want to save yourself the frustration of not having clean puzzle edges and still being able to use that nice thick chipboard from Cricut, this is the way to do it. I've tested this with numerous materials and numerous times, and this is the best way. So select one of your pieces. Starting at the top left hand makes sense to me. So I'm going to select that top left hand piece. I'm going to come over to my layers panel and I'm going to scroll down until I see my gnomes piece, which for me is all the way down here. So here's my print then cut gnome image that I just sent to the back a few moments ago. It's right behind all those puzzle pieces. And I'm going to hold my shift key on my keyboard and I'm going to select it in the layers panel. Now what we just did is we just selected that background and our puzzle piece that we selected a moment ago is still also selected. See right there in the layers panel where it's kind of grayed out? It's also selected. So now you can see our slice tool right here is illuminated so that we can click it. Go ahead and click that button. And it just sliced our image. And it brought our little gnomes to the front, which is fine. I want you to click on the gnomes and I want you to select Arrange, Send to Back. Now it's back behind again. Click on that same puzzle piece that we started with and hit Delete. Then click on it again and move it over. We just sliced this corner of our puzzle from the image and it is now perfectly sliced out in the shape of that puzzle. And we are going to repeat that with the rest of these pieces. So I'm going to show you this process again a few more times because I know this is advanced. This is definitely an advanced tutorial. I mentioned that in the beginning. So if you're new to Cricut, this is advanced stuff, guys. Take your time, be patient, watch the video multiple times. So I'm going to click again on my next puzzle piece here. And I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom where my background image is. I'm going to hold my shift key, I'm going to select it, and I'm going to hit slice. I'm going to move this piece off and delete it. I'm going to move my sliced result that I want to keep over here. Then I'm going to select my gnomes image again, Arrange, Send to Back. I'm going to click on the next piece. I'm going to scroll all the way down. If you do send to back, your image will always be the very last thing because everything in the layers panel is layered by its arrangement on the canvas, whatever is in front of or behind of something. So that's how you always know that this will be at the very bottom. Hold my shift key, select that again, hit the slice tool, move that piece off and delete it. Move the result that we want over here. Select my gnomes image again. Send to back. Select the next piece. Scroll all the way down. Shift on my keyboard. I'm holding and clicking. Slice. And move it off. And you should be seeing a pattern now with how this works. So we're just repeating this step for each piece. And I know, again, this seems weird, and I don't think there's anybody else out there who's taught this method, but you're going to see why it works really well. If you're wanting a really great puzzle and you want to use a thick chipboard, this is the secret. So there we go. I've just done my first row. Now, I don't know why Cricut does this. I noticed this with one of my other puzzles. You notice our little gnomes did not jump to the front here when I moved that piece over. For some reason, it deletes it, and I don't know why. So if that does happen to you, I'm going to undo because I don't want to lose that piece. One second, guys. I'm just undoing all my actions here. It takes a moment. Okay, so what I do at this point, when I get down to that first row here, that very last piece in that first row, for some reason, Cricut likes to delete my image after I get to that first row. I really don't know why. There's something in the slice results that's making it do that. So I'm just going to duplicate this again. Use my duplicate tool. I'm going to move it right over here just for the time being. And then let's continue. Let's just do arrange, send to back. Let's click that front piece and shift and then slice. Let's get rid of that. Now we have that piece that we wanted, but we've lost our background. So now we can just go ahead and continue the next row with our duplicated copy that we just made over here. And I didn't have it happen after the first row. It doesn't happen at the end of every row. It only seems to happen with that first row. Again, I don't know why, but just make that duplicate copy if it happens to you, and then just continue. So I'm just gonna move to back, start over here on the far left-hand side in the second row, move all the way down, shift and select, slice, delete that piece, move this over, okay? And continue. Arrange, send to back. Here we go, slice, delete, move it over, arrange, send to back, shift, and slice. All right, and you're just gonna continue that until you've done it with all the pieces, okay? So I'm not gonna bore you with the next 2.5 rows here. You should understand by this point in time, since we've done like several pieces here, of what that looks like. Now I'm just gonna get this off my screen. I'm gonna show you what the final result looks like. So here's the next part. We only have our image here. Now we need the piece that we're going to cut out of the chipboard, which is where that duplicate that you should still have in your layers panel that we hid before we started slicing, that's where you want to bring that back in, and you want to ungroup it. You want to take the imagery off, and you want to just have the puzzle pieces. So what we're going to do when we go to the cut screen is we're going to cut one mat with chipboard with puzzle pieces, and we're going to cut one mat with just our printable vinyl, and then we're going to layer the printable vinyl right on top of our puzzle pieces. Okay, so the last step we need to do before we can actually start cutting is we need to make sure our puzzle and our printable vinyl pieces are all going to be situated properly on the cut screen. So if I were to go to the Make It screen right now, it would kind of randomize all of my printable vinyl pieces here, my print then cut images, and then it would place all of the white puzzle pieces that we're going to cut out in chipboard on one mat. Now the problem with this is chipboard cannot be cut, cannot be any wider than 11 inches. So you can see here that our puzzle pieces are going over the 11-inch margin, and we need that to be under 11 inches because Cricut does not allow you to cut anything wider than 11 inches with thick chipboard-like material. So we need to make sure we arrange these in a way that allows us to not only keep track of them, but also that it's not wider than the 11-inch margin. And the same goes for these pieces here. Cricut kind of randomized them, and I want to be able to keep a little bit better track on my pieces, so I'm going to show you what to do. It's loading back up for me here. On my canvas screen here, I have kept my imagery, the pieces I've sliced from the puzzle, I've kept it in its rows. So I kept the top row together, the second, the third, and the fourth row going together. So even though you can't see the image together here, it is all in sequential order. The puzzle over here, you'll need to ungroup it. The puzzle here might be tempting to leave it just as it is to cut, but we don't want to do that because, let me zoom in here. If we do that, every time it cuts where the puzzle pieces touch, it's going to create additional stress because it's going to go around this puzzle piece. Then it's going to go around this puzzle piece. And the places where it touches, it's going to create additional passes. And that pass is just how many times the blade is going on the material. And it's going to stress it and it's going to rip it. And I tested this multiple times and it did not turn out very well when you're using the chipboard materials. So what you do, keep them in order. But go ahead and pull them apart to where there's a little bit of space between each one. So this is all you're going to do is you're just going to pull these apart so there's some space. You can see I'm still keeping them in sequential order here so I won't get confused, and it'll match the imagery that's right next to us there with the gnome. It's matching it piece by piece. And so forth like this, okay? And then the last thing you need to do to ensure that these do not move when you go to the cut screen is you need to use your attach tool. So let me just do this real quick, get these all pulled apart. All right, now there's a little space between each of those puzzle pieces. They're still in order, but there's just some space between them. So now I'm going to grab this amount here. Let's see what that measures. It measures 7.6 by 9.6, so that's good. I'm going to use my attach tool. That will fit on one piece of chipboard because it's under 11 inches, and Cricut will allow us to cut that. And then I'm going to grab these. It also fits within that 11-inch margin. Cricut's going to make us cut that chipboard within. Use your attach tool. There you go. Now, when we go to our screen, down here on the chipboard, you can see that our items are well within that 11-inch margin. So you're just going to cut 2 pieces of chipboard, and that's exactly how you're going to do it to get around there being that that little error that Cricut will give you if you try to cut wider than 11 inches, okay? The last step, I'm going really slow here to try to make sure you guys understand it. This stuff does not take this long once you get it down, is for your imagery right here. You want to do the same thing. You want to attach it because we want to try and keep it in as much order as possible so that our puzzle comes together pretty easily. So I'm just going to grab some pieces here. It's too many. I'm going to grab those 6 pieces, and Cricut will not let you cut print then cut images that are wider than 9 inches by 7 inches. So it has to be under like 7.25 and 9.25, I think. So this is under those dimensions. I'm going to attach those together. And I'm going to attach these 4 together over here. All I'm doing here is just sort of grouping things together using my attach tool so that when we go to the cut screen, things aren't going to move around on us and we're going to be able to keep track of our puzzle pieces much easier. So that's the only trick of why I'm doing all this here, okay? So now I've made these, attached together, these attached together, and these attached together. And the reason I couldn't just attach all of them together is because if I were to do that, let's hit attach. See this little yellow exclamation point that Cricut gave us here? It means that the project is incompatible. If I were to try to go to the Make It screen right now, it would say project incompatible. The project is not supported by your current machine selection. To resolve, select OK and adjust your affected layers, meaning that this is too big. So that is why we had to group them in smaller attached pieces rather than one big large one. Okay, so now when I go to my Make It screen, it's the real deal now. Now we're going to print out 4 pieces of printable vinyl. We're going to load those onto our machine. We're going to print them out using the printable vinyl setting. Then we're going to load some chipboard onto our machine. And we're going to cut these out in chipboard. And then we're going to layer the vinyl on top of the chipboard pieces, and you're going to be able to keep track easier because we used our attach tool, and you can still use a visual guide of how you have it set up on your canvas right now. Use that as your visual guide to keep track. So let's jump forward, and I'm going to show you how to arrange these. Okay, so here I'm using the light blue light grip mat, and I'm placing my printable vinyl at the top left-hand corner, and we're loading it into our machine. You'll press that load button and then press the Cricut icon button, and now my machine is cutting this out. It'll take a second to read the registration marks, and then it'll cut all that printable vinyl out. You can unload your machine when it is done, flip the mat over, and then peel the mat away from the material gently. And you're going to repeat that for any pieces of printable vinyl that you need to cut out. Okay? Now for the chipboard part, we're going to use the strong grip mat, which is the purple mat. You're going to place your chipboard at that top left-hand corner again, and you want to use some painter's tape just to make sure that that chipboard stays in place. So just put some painter's tape around the edges there to make sure everything stays right where it needs to be and nothing is scooting around on you when your blade is cutting. You're going to be using the knife blade for this because this is a Cricut Maker project, and that is what Cricut requires for this heavier chipboard that we're using in this example here. I'm going to load that into my machine and make sure my star wheels are all the way to the right-hand side. Those are just the white wheels. My machine cut all of this out. I'm not going to bore you with that process because it takes several passes. So now you can see I have all of my chipboard pieces cut out here. I've kept them in order. As I've pulled them off the mat, I've kept them in order. I also have, of course, all my printable vinyl already cut out and ready to go, and I've kept those in order, and I'm peeling them off starting with the top left-hand piece first, and I just place them on top like a sticker. This takes a little bit of practice to get used to, but it is not too difficult. If you don't have a very steady hand, maybe ask a friend or family member to give you a hand with this part. You can use transfer tape as well if that's easier for you. However, your transfer tape will likely peel some of your ink off of your printable vinyl if you're using an inkjet printer. So there's two ways to get around this. One, don't use an inkjet printer, use a laser printer. I realize that that's not many of you have laser printers, but if you have access to one, then that is one option for you. The second method to get around this is if you have an inkjet printer, print it out as usual, and before you go to cut your printable vinyl, then just spray a couple coats of clear acrylic sealer on top of your printable vinyl and let it fully dry. And then once it's fully dry, you should be able to use your transfer tape to put them on top of the puzzle pieces, and it should not peel any of the ink off. I tested that and it worked pretty well on another puzzle that I tried. As a whole, I was able to get these on pretty easily and pretty well by just putting, each vinyl piece right on top of my puzzle pieces. It just takes a little bit of practice, a little bit of patience, but it's pretty forgiving. The printable vinyl is very forgiving, so there were several times I did not get it right the first time with my placement. I lifted it up and I placed it down until I got it right, and it worked just fine. This whole process ensures a much smoother puzzle, and even though it took a little bit longer, I would rather have a nicer looking puzzle with smooth edges than something that I end up just not being able to make at all because the edges are so rough. So all in all, doing the slice that we just did in the slice method in the Cricut Design Space, and then this part here, it took me a little over an extra hour of this project. All in all, this one puzzle project took me about an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes. So not awful, it's not super, super long, and you can see our puzzle pieces are much cleaner. So I'm not going to bore you with this whole process here. I'm just placing all of my printable vinyl with my puzzle pieces, and you're going to do the same thing. Okay, so I finished placing all of my printable vinyl on top of my chipboard puzzle pieces, and you can see here that it turned out pretty well, and now it just needs to be assembled. We can see how smooth our edges are, so I'm really happy with that. And the chipboard is rather thick, so you have to kind of press it to kind of get it to click in there, or you might have to pick it up and sort of press the pieces together. So I'm just assembling my puzzle here. These are some cute little gnomes. Everybody's crazy for gnomes right now, so I thought, why not include them? I made this project around Valentine's Day, so I went with sort of a Valentine's gnome theme here. You can get these templates for free on my blog, abbykirstencollections.com. The link is below this video for you and in the corner of this video. If you're an Explore machine user, make sure you watch the Explore puzzle tutorial, the ones for the Explore. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's a little bit of a different approach to puzzles, but I saw so many people having trouble trying to figure out how to get a smooth image that I figured I would kind of take a different approach and see how it turned out. And overall, it turned out pretty well. Obviously, it's a homemade puzzle, so it's not going to look factory perfect. We all know that, but I think it turned out pretty well overall. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, guys, and I'll see y'all next time.